Welcome to Top 10 Sports Media. So, here are the top 10 tips on how to be good at fantasy basketball and be a pro in no time. Dream Basketball works on the same essential regulations as any other fantasy sport. The game builds groups of players from the respective league and gains points based on real-life performances. The points you make determine winners and losers, whether that day, week, or season. Fantasy basketball can be more comfortable than some other fantasy sports because typically fewer players are drafted in standard formats than in different fiction games. The advice and tips found here should help you construct an exemplary and hopefully league-winning team, even if you haven't been actively tracking the NBA. 1. Know your league. There are two parts to understanding your league mates, and your league settings. Studying your league settings is the essential piece of draft preparation you can do. Knowing more about your league mates drives the game more competitive and allows maximum intra-league banter. Dream Basketball is a game, just like every other game. It has regulations, and just like every other game, it's impossible to win without understanding those rules. And not every league has the same rules. Every setting raises the value of some players while decreasing the value of others. For example, Russell Westbrook is more helpful in a league that doesn't count turnovers, while Kawhi Leonard is more useful in a league that does. Head-to-head leagues necessitate a different strategy than roto leagues. Other considerations include the presence or lack of an IR spot, the rigor or flexibility of positional requirements, and whether your league employs any non-traditional categories. Knowing your league mates is less critical, but more fun. The more information you have about their rooting preference, the better. 2. Commit. Fantasy champions are often the most active managers. Being busy isn't the only key to winning, but it's hard to win if you are inactive. Commit to keeping your lineups up to date, checking waivers, responding to trades, and hopefully proposing a few words of your own. The more engaged you get, the more fun you have, and your team will be better. 3. Draft prep. Make tiers. One of the valuable ways to prepare for a draft is to make your tiered rankings. Going through the method of creating your tiers will help you generate familiarity with players throughout the draft board and on a more severe level than you're likely to obtain by only reading articles and listening to podcasts. When it comes to draft day, a tiered list of rankings can be more beneficial than a standard big board, particularly in leagues with tight positional settings. For example, suppose you still don't have a big guy in the 4th round, but are keen to go a bit higher for a high upside wing. If there are a few bigs left on your present tier, then go for it. On the different hand, if there is only one big man left before a significant drop in talent, then you should probably hold him. Worst case scenario, find somebody else's tiered rankings and bring those to your draft. 4. Draft day. Don't outsmart yourself. Never pick a team purely based on your host site's default ranking. Ask anyone who has ever had to auto-draft a squad. However, keep in mind that those default rankings were created by people who make a career off of fantasy sports. Feel free to pass on a top-tier athlete or move up a dozen or so slots for a player you like. Individual gurus and the fantasy community consistently pick the wrong guys. However, if a player is ranked outside the top 100, do not select him on the top 50. It's okay to fall in love with Rookie X, even if everyone else says Player Y should start first. Pass on Player Y and draft Rookie X later, but don't select Rookie X while Player Y is still available. I'm paid to do it, but I still ruin teams when I believe I've outwitted everyone. It's fine to go for the players you want, just make sure not to overdo it. 5. Understand your format. As with any other fantasy sport, the league format can influence the most helpful players. Fantasy basketball is usually scored in 4 ways: head-to-head points, roto, also called categorical, head-to-head roto, and points. Head-to-head roto sets you against another member of your league, with one winner and one loser, or a tie, depending on your commissioner's thoughts on the subject. Like real basketball, those victories and losses determine who makes the playoffs. Winners and losers are selected by the most statistics in each statistical category: points, rebounds, assists, steals, etc. For example, if your team scores 200 rebounds, 300 points, and 100 assists, while my team scores 150 rebounds, 450 points, and 99 assists, you've won the contest 2 categories to 1. This is the most common fantasy baseball format. Head-to-head points works in the same way, except that instead of separating each statistic individually, success is accomplished by totaling the most fantasy points, determined by a fixed number for each statistic. 6. Be active on the waiver wire, especially early. Successful managers must keep an eye on the waivers wire. The waiver wire is an essential tool for developing potential and a way to get rid of players who aren't contributing. It's always crucial, but it's critical early in the season. Many future top 100 players are available on waivers early in the season every year. Most years, numerous top 50 players are also picked up for free. It's nearly impossible to win if you're missing out on all of the action. While many of the most acceptable waiver values are claimed in the first month or two, exceptional pickups arise throughout the year. Some managers discarded Nikola Jokic after a slow start in 2016-17, but those who kept an eye on the waiver wire when he began playing in mid-December got the most acceptable value of the season. Jordan Crawford hadn't played in an NBA game in nearly 3 years when he returned to the league on March 6, 2017, but he quickly found his way onto fantasy lineups as a provider of points, threes, and assists, as well as high field goal percentage. 7. Check the box scores. A surefire way to maintain your team active is to check the box scores every day. Remaining on top of the box scores will help you notice trends as soon as they grow. There are sure to be shocked as each team's rotation settles earlier in the season, especially for the poorer groups. As the season moves along, some backups will gain more prominent roles, and every trade or injury opens possibilities for somebody else. Identifying these trends and acting upon them quickly delivers managers a significant advantage. 8. Make trades. The most misunderstood aspect of Monopoly and fantasy sports is trading. Assume 2 Monopoly players are negotiating a trade that will result in both of them finishing a set of properties. Shouldn't the player receiving the less costly property resist if the proposition is a 1-for-1 deal? No. Wrong. Fraudulent information. While one player may benefit more from that agreement, both players benefit from the non-participants. Both players are better off due to the deal than if they had not exchanged. The same holds for fantasy sports. Managers are constantly concerned about losing a trade. The losing side of a business is typically the 8 or 10 or 12 or whatever teams involved. If your team improves, and improvement means something different for each manager and possible transaction, make a move even if you believe the other manager has improved. Trades are also entertaining. It's good to have fun. 9. Go for multi-category stat stuffers. There is nothing like players like LeBron James in fantasy basketball who fill every single category in the box score. You won't obtain James without a top 2 pick this season, so you should draft poor man's version of him. Scoring specialist with little more to give have a place in the NBA, but not on your fantasy squad. On the other hand, target players will contribute their due share of points, rebounds, assists, 3-pointers, blocks, and steals. 10. Have fun and embrace the grind. This isn't a blood sport. We participated because we liked the game. the NBA season lasts a long time. Fantasy basketball is most similar to fantasy baseball in that the most attentive and active managers frequently ascend to the top. My top players haven't characterized my best and most exciting fantasy basketball seasons, but rather rewarding free agent acquisitions and discovering sleepers who finally woke up with solid stats. Being on the cusp of Bam Adebayo's fantastic breakout season last season was both memorable and rewarding. Accept the long season and stick with your squad, even if your team starts slowly, because diligent management will improve your roster and your experience. Whether you're a real veteran or it's your first time playing fantasy basketball, these top 10 ideas will help you win your league's title this season. So, do you want to see more sports videos? Leave your opinions in the comments area. We'd love to hear them. Of course, you won't want to miss out on our fantastic and entertaining videos. So please like, subscribe, and ring the bell to notify our latest video. That's all for now. See you next time.